Hello, and thank you for listening to The Bose Knows, a podcast about QI Roberts Junior Senior High School in Putnam County, Florida. I'm your host, Mr. Bose, and today we'll be talking to guests from the Palatka High School Theater Department, some of our very own students that are actually the leads in this fall's show. So welcome, and thank you for joining me today. Why don't you introduce yourselves to our listeners as who you are, and then also what character you play in the show.
Hi, I'm Liam Neal, and I play as Aladdin.
I'm Brandon McDaniel, and I'm Jafar, the big mean guy.
I'm Gabrielle Chapman, and I play as Jasmine.
Wonderful. Thank you for joining me. So my podcast starts with the same couple of questions. So what's your favorite topic in school and why?
We're just going to go this way. Favorite topic in school, probably history. I really just enjoy that class, and I don't think I've ever had like a bad time in a history class, really. It's all fun.
I think my favorite subject so far is classical, mainly because I like the way Miss Bose teaches in that class, and she makes like all those like the stuff like with like mythology and like, you know, the classical history and like that old ancient world a lot more interesting and like kind of engaging, and making a lot of like those figures like, you know, Alexander the Great or like some like the mythological characters like more interesting and relatable.
I'd say my favorite topic is probably language/reading. That's because you can really like portray a lot of deep themes into small words.
Very good. So next question is, what is your favorite QI story or tradition?
You want to start on that, Liam?
QI story or tradition. I guess like when we like do that video at the end of like the school year where
The lip dub.
the lip dub. Because like usually I just like in that video I don't really do a whole lot. I just like stand there and just like party or whatever, and like a lot of times it's like kind of embarrassing, but it's also kind of fun doing it a little bit with everybody, since, you know, we're just like trying to like get people to come to here to QI Roberts, and you know, it's a fun thing to do.
I'd say my favorite tradition is one that we've started very recently, and it's the whole flash mob thing that we've got going on. It's real fun to watch everybody dance and minion costumes and stuff.
I don't really know that many traditions, but I guess, we do it every year, which is the pep rallies. I really like those. They're very fun. And the games that we get to do after.
Those are all very good. And actually, as of the publishing of this podcast, we're about a week away from our winter pep rally and student versus teacher soccer game. So I know I'm kind of excited about that. So next question I have for the three of you is, if you could have coffee with anyone dead or alive, who would it be and why?
So dead or alive, it doesn't matter.
Correct, dead or alive.
If I could have coffee with anybody, maybe okay, I'm thinking of either one of two people. Either Hugh Jackman or either Hugh Jackman or Arnold Schwarzenegger. I can't say his last name. It's really difficult.
Challenge. I'd say I'd probably have coffee with the late comedian Mitch Hedberg. I think he's a funny guy, and I think, you know, a cup of coffee and just talking about all of his jokes would really be enjoyable.
It's kind of weird. I don't know much about her, but obviously she's very popular, so I guess Princess Diana, because I kind of want to know what happened and what her life was like.
Alrighty. Those will be some great cups of coffee. Last question before we get into talking about Aladdin is quality, integrity, respect. Which one and why?
I think out of all of them, I'd say integrity is the most important one, because, you know, it's about, you know, being like genuine, and I think that's a very important trait that everyone should have, because being disingenuous or like not having integrity for yourself and others is like it's kind of like worse than just having zero quality or like being rude and all that, because it's like I think that's just in general one of the most important values that a person should have in life as a whole.
I've had discussions in class about this before, and I think it all comes down to respect. That's the biggest thing, because the whole quality, integrity, respect thing is basically like a small set of rules that we have at QI in a way. And if you've got no respect for the rules or no respect for the authority that put those rules in place here, then, the other two really don't matter at all to me.
I guess I feel like quality makes a lot of things, because it's the quality of people and the quality of the actions that you choose to do, and then just the quality of life in general.
Very good. And finishing on quality, I suppose, takes us into the heart of today's podcast, so talking about Aladdin. So I think some of you have been a part of the drama program / class here at QI in various points in your history here. So why don't you tell our listeners kind of the differences between what we have versus what the technically named Palatka High School theater program, but I guess would be the Putnam County theater program. Kind of talk about the differences and why somebody would want to do one versus the other or both.
Well, since I'm in the drama class for this year's, and I would say that like one thing about the drama class we have here that I like is that like it's a lot more about like teaching people how to like act and like improvise and all that kind of stuff, while the theater program at PHS is more like we're like performing and doing like like plays and like performances and all that. We do learn some like things, but they're more so like advice or like ideas for like improvement of our performance as the characters we were casted as and all that. And to say like which one people would prefer, it really depends on like what kind of experience you want. Like if you want to like learn how to act and like perform, improvisation, all that, I think you would probably go to the drama class for QI Roberts. But if you want to like have that like theater experience of like performing in front of people and like sort of like something like they do in Broadway, then you would probably go to the PHS theater program.
Jumping off of like what Liam said, they're two different things, because you go to PHS in quotes theater, and it's more of a musical type thing. There's lots of dancing. It's very big. But what we did here, because I did it in 9th grade with Mr. Collier, it felt more like skit based. It was more plays and farces than it was big musicals and big numbers. And I do agree with Liam that the drama class, I learned way more in that drama class than I would at the theater. Not saying you don't learn anything at the theater, but the drama class, really, I learned quite a lot there. One of the biggest things we would do with Mr. Collier was a big like improvisation like practice. Like we'd go up there and they'd give us like a subject, and we'd have to make a whole skit out of that. And I definitely learned how to do really good improv from that, and I used it in the Palatka High School shows later on. So I'd say I don't think one's more important than the other in a way. I think they both worked off of each other really well. It just all comes down to how big of a production you want to be a part of. Because if you want to be a part of a smaller kind of production, but still a good one, I'd recommend doing the actual classes. But if you want a big show, definitely Putnam Musical Theater.
Gotcha. So it kind of sounds like to oversimplify it, the difference would be like the drama class at QI is if you want to learn how to play the piano, but if you just want to learn how to play chopsticks, that's kind of the musical theater program, because you're focused on that show in that time. Obviously, you probably learn over multiple shows different things. Great. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what it's like being a part of the big production? I know from having all of you in class or in class in the past, and my own experience, that the doing musicals is a lot of late nights and long hours. So kind of talk about what that experience is like, and is it worth it? And should other people want to do it?
I would say it's worth it because, like, if you really want to do like musical theater or just like are very curious about it and you get into it, I think it's something that everyone should like try. And like, it's not for everyone. Like, if you don't find any interest in it, then like that's okay. It's just that I would say the experience is like very rewarding because it is like a lot of hard work, especially with like the dancing, choreography, and like doing some of the scenes and all that. But really, like, it's all about like, you know, the people that you work with and like the joy and like, you know, the excitement you get from like really succeeding or even like messing up sometimes, because you get to learn a lot and improve and get better. And also for me personally is that I always like valued like all the people I work with and each of the different productions I've been in, because like because like in my first show, West Side Story, I was like new to it all, so like, and most of the people were like more experienced than me, so I always like relied on them to like help me understand some things and like improve and get better on some stuff. And I would say that it's an experience that like is worth getting through, especially like during performance, like when you have to like perform in front of people for the first time, and when you like do really well and the audience claps, it like kind of makes you feel satisfied and like happy that like you that you went through everything you did.
I think it's definitely a lot of work that goes into it, and it's not just rehearsals either. I worked a lot backstage during the show, mainly setting up the magic carpet. That was about probably a 13-hour day just alone setting up the carpet, and it's definitely a lot of work. Friday, past Friday recently, we had a 9:00 show. You know, we had to get there at 7:30. Got all our makeup and costume on. You know, did the show at 9. And right when the show was over, I thought we'd at least get 10, 20-minute break. And then boom, as soon as we walked backstage after taking bows, they're telling us it's places for the next show. And so it's definitely a lot of work. And, you know, a lot of naps have gone into making this possible, but it's definitely going good.
Really, I'd say that people should probably try to do it at least once. And I think that it's pretty worth it, because as I've never personally been in anything like this before, and I didn't realize that it's pretty rewarding despite a lot of the work, because people are just really nice, and it just feels really good to have the work pay off and be in something so big.
That's great, and I will say for our listeners, Branham kind of alluded to something. If you're not an onstage type of person, there's plenty of experience to be had backstage and making all the stuff that happens on stage possible. So don't think because you're not a performer that there's not a place for you.
We've got plenty of stagehands that are QI students as well, not just actors, but people who are moving sets, controlling curtains, doing makeup, all QI students. So even if acting isn't really your thing, but you still think theater is cool, I'll give you some examples. Andrew Walwick, a middle schooler, is doing the sound for the show. He's controlling the sound. We've got Cammie, who's doing the curtains. Elijah is helping operate the magic carpet. So even if acting or singing or dancing isn't your thing, but you still want to be involved in the production, that is 100% possible. And it also is a good way to get community service hours.
So in my previous interviews with specifically athletes and other students that participate with organizations and groups outside of QI, one of the things that they always seem to comment on is new friends and getting to know people that aren't at your school. So tell us a little bit about what that is like.
So I'm just going to give the example from West Side Story in 9th grade. I went into West Side Story auditions, and this was very scary to me because I know nobody. You know, it's a bunch of PHS kids that I didn't know, and I actually met like a few of my really close friends through that, and it's just nice because the theater has a big family feel to it, depending on the cast. It's not guaranteed that it's always going to be super close, but most of the time we're all very close, and I've made real good friends. And the thing I'd say that brings us close together is this happens during like show week, is the big sleepovers. Certain groups like mine, we usually pick a house and stay there for about 3 nights in a row, and I feel bad for the parents, but also it's a fun experience for, us, because it feels like it brings us all closer together. So I'd say if you're looking for friendships too, that's a positive about theater, because there's always a new face there to talk to.
Yeah, I have to agree that, especially when I was like auditioning for West Side Story, I didn't know a lot of people there like at all, and like most of them were like from PHS, and even like the people from QI, because at the time I wasn't like as like social or like open with other people as I kind of am now.
I didn't even know you that well during.
Yeah,
West Side
I didn't know you that
Story,
well either. So, but I think during West Side Story, especially like after COVID, and then like we started rehearsing for the show again, I started like becoming more open. I got to talk to a lot more people, and I got to see that like I have a lot more common with other people in the cast, and like I got to make a lot of great friends, like Andrew McClellan, you, Gabby, also Charlie. He's already graduated, and as well as Mark and Talia and all sorts of people. I could list them all out, but that'd take too long. But the point is that through theater, I really appreciate it, because it's helped me to become a lot more open and more like it has helped me to like make a lot more friends than I probably would have normally.
It's more than just singing and dancing.
Yeah.
Is basically the way to say it.
Yeah.
There's a lot more that you get out of it.
Mhm.
It's definitely a big reward in doing that. So
I think the best part is like when we interact after we've done a scene. Like after we like do a really fun scene and we interact and talk about it, it's really fun.
Gabby, do you have anything you want to add? The gentlemen are hogging the conversation here.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's definitely from where everybody that I know now compared to when I first started, it is very different, because generally I didn't know like anybody even in it. Like even people who go to my school, I did not really know at all. I knew about maybe 3 people, but now it's very different, because now I definitely have a lot more friends and people that I even know now who go to my school. So it's definitely, it opens you up to a lot of people, and it's very different.
That's great. So I think the 3 of you have done a great job talking about the experience of musical theater. But we are in between opening weekend and closing weekend. So why don't let's start out with, hopefully our listeners know the story of Aladdin, but why don't the 3 of you give us like the 30-second Spark Notes version of what the show is?
okay, we're just gonna do this like lightning round, 10
Yeah.
seconds each.
All right.
Okay, you got Aladdin. Aladdin is really poor, and Aladdin has a group of friends. And one day, Aladdin meets a girl in the marketplace.
And he's really in love with her, but he's poor because she's a princess, so he can't be with her until Jafar comes in. He's like he's the main bad guy. He basically tells him, "Oh, if you go to this creepy cave and find a lamp, you'll get what you want."
And then Aladdin meets Genie and Genie's magic. So Genie helps him become a prince, and then he uses that and falls in love with the princess, and she falls in love with him, and then they end up together.
But before they end up together, Jafar is a very evil wizard who really wants to be the Sultan, and he sees that these guys are getting in his way. And so Jafar, near the end, really gets greedy. And that's all I'm going to say. I can't really spoil the end there.
That was a great lightning round synopsis there for everybody. So any comments on opening weekend?
It was great. I was very surprised, actually. And I'm not saying most opening weekends are bad, but specifically the school shows, I think there was an Instagram thing I saw where we had like over 2,400 people in attendance on our opening weekend, and that was just crazy to see. I'm really happy to see that the crowds are starting to grow more and more with the theater.
Yeah.
Because there was a time, especially after COVID, I'm pretty sure COVID hit the theater really hard. Audiences started dwindling, but recently I have been seeing the auditorium a lot more full than it has been, and that's a good sight because it shows that it's kind of coming back and everything.
Also, especially like, I think it was on Saturday. I feel like was our best show because like I felt like that was like just not only for like the cast feeling like that was like their best performances, but also the audience felt like the most engaged and the most like there was like the most applause. I felt.
There was definitely a lot of people, which I didn't really expect as much because I haven't been in one, so I didn't think that there would be as many people as ended up showing, and so that was very surprising.
Awesome. So if our listeners, this is going to go live on Thursday morning, so if our listeners want to come see the show, what are their remaining opportunities to see the three of you in Aladdin?
So, if you are a QI student, I'm pretty sure we're having a field trip to go see it. I'm pretty sure QI is taking a field trip to see it. If not, if you missed that field trip, you can see it Friday night at 7:30, Saturday night at 7:30 once again, or Sunday afternoon at 2:30. The tickets are $15 in advance at Ralph's House of Flowers in downtown Palatka, or $20 at the door.
That is a well-practiced answer, though,
I
my
had
friend.
to remember that for the radio station.
Yeah, I already forgot about it.
So that's great. Anything else the three of you want to share about the show or your experiences with musical theater?
I would say for this show specifically, I think people will obviously really like it, but also, like, if you haven't seen, like, the Broadway show, it does add, like, a lot more compared to, like, the original movie. Like, there's obviously this new song Aladdin sings called Proud of Your Boy, which, like, delves more into, like, his character and, like, his motivations for, like, why he wants to, like, be more than what he is currently as at the start of the story. And also, like, obviously expands on, like, some of the old classic songs, like Friend Like Me. You get to see a lot more fun, dancing and, people jumping and, like, cheering and all that. It's a lot of fun.
Going off of what Liam said, there is definitely a lot going on compared to the movies, and it's pretty fun to see.
Just come see it. It's a fun show. I mean, it's literally a bunch of us running around. I mean, it's like as close as we can get to a live action Disney movie, and it's very cartoony. The costumes are great. I've got a big snake staff with red glowing eyes. I mean, you have to be there to see it. It's a fun experience.
I know I'm looking forward to it. I'm bringing my son on Sunday to see the show. So one thing I did forget that we should probably talk about is if any of our listeners are inspired to join the musical theater program, when's their next opportunity to get in on that?
I think around February next year, they're going to start handing out slips, and it'll tell you all the info about the audition, where you need to go, what songs you need to learn, depending on if you're a boy or a girl, And that's the big thing that a lot of people are confused about, is you're not really auditioning for a certain role with the theater. You just go in, you sing a song, and they pick whatever they think fits best.
And sometimes there'll be, like, callbacks, so there'll be, like, more auditions later on, like, a couple of days later, for, like, specific roles, if you get, like, called back for one. And also, there might also be, like, a dance audition, too, depending on the show. Sometimes there's not. Like, Hello Dolly didn't have a dance audition.
It's about a 2-week process in general, but it's not impossible. And if any QI students do an audition for the next show, we have all, you can ride to auditions with any of the people who are in theater already, because we're going to do it.
That's great. And I believe it's Palatka High School Musical Theater on Facebook, I think. So listeners, if you want to kind of stay tuned there for more information about the show. Normally, I would ask what media recommendations you have for your listeners, but I think we've already covered the shameless plug for the show, that they should come out. It is 12, 9, 10, and 11, so this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and you heard it from Jafar himself at 7:30, 7:30, and 2:30. So thank you for being here. Listeners, if you like the podcast, be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you can catch future episodes. And be sure to give QI Roberts Student Government a follow on Facebook and Instagram to stay up to date on future episodes and happenings around QI. If you feel we've earned it, please rate and review us on your podcast player of choice and share with a friend. Thank you, Knights. And remember, excellence in all endeavors.